Dr. Nick, your favorite personal growth coach, and we are here for another exciting treat as we continue to give you a snippet of what we experienced at this year's Adulting in My Purpose Summit. We had some dynamic, amazing speakers that came to us and shared wonderful strategies, tips, tools for every aspect of our lives. And so I am going to share for the remainder of 2021. For those that were not in attendance, I am giving this to you, blessing you because you were not in the room, but I know this information is so important, and we are going to continue to do more of this as we prepare for Adulting in My Purpose Summit 2022. So if you weren't in the room this year, you definitely want to be in the virtual room on next year. But this session, we have an amazing dynamic speaker who is going to talk to us on mental health. We know that this is an important topic that needs to be discussed. So I'm excited to share with you. You know what to do. Grab your notepad, grab your pens and pencils, and enjoy and listen in to our next speaker that we had at the Adulting in My Purpose Summit, who is going to speak to us on mental health.
Well, welcome back, everyone. That wasn't that first session just amazing? So I'm just excited because we are going to continue to grow, continue to learn. And so we are starting our second session, and we have another dynamic and amazing professional that is going to come and talk about mental health. So I want to welcome to the Adulting in My Purpose Virtual Summit, Miss Omolola Otubaga. And I'll just give you a little bit about her before she steps onto the platform. She is a board certified psychiatric nurse practitioner. She is qualified to diagnose, treat, prescribe medication for individuals throughout their lifespan. She specializes in, but not limited to, ADHD, depression, substance abuse, anxiety, bipolar, and schizophrenia, but truly has a passion to provide quality, compassionate, and comprehensive mental health services to her clients. She currently provides in her own practice MindSet Healthcare, where she has clients that receive medication management if they're warranted. And not only that, she started a nonprofit called Mentally Fit for Life, where she educates Black and Brown community in increasing awareness of emotional, behavioral, psychosocial, and spiritual self. So I'm so excited to bring to the Adulting in My Purpose platform, Miss Omolola Otubags. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. How's everyone doing? Hello? Okay. Well, I am here, and I guess we're just going to talk. Does anyone have any questions as far as speaking on mental health from a personal level, or anything specific that you want to ask? So with that being said, I'm just going to get in and dive in. So my purpose when I decided to do mental health, or I'll even speak from my nonprofit side, is to basically inform individuals or destigmatize mental health, because it's such a, the stigma that is associated with it, unfortunately, but it's real, and we need to talk about it. We need to have these uncomfortable conversations. And so I like to describe mental health because all of us have mental health. So when you think of mental health is the way that you think, the way that you feel, the way that you speak, the way that you look, the way that you dress. All of that is part of our mental health. So when you see someone who is thinking irrationally, speaking irrationally, dressing irrationally, or, anything regarding to that, or behaving irrationally, that is their mental health. So when it comes from a personal level, I like for me, it's being uncomfortable is what creates growth. So if someone does something to you, and a lot of times we are afraid to say something because we don't want to be the enemy, or we don't want people to dislike us. So we keep going for it, right? We never say anything, and that person's going to keep doing it. And eventually we get tired and we snap. And it may not be on that person, but we'll project our feelings or our frustration on others. So I just feel being able to address situations is something that we need to do. And remember, it also depends on where you are with that person, right? So if this is someone that you really do not necessarily care to address or have a conversation with, then, you know, it doesn't really matter. That's your piece. But if this is someone that you value, someone who is valuable to you, then have that conversation, you know, and like Alex said, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because a lot of times, how can you really be upset with someone if you never told them how they made you feel, right? You're upset, you're lingering or carrying this anger with you, but that person doesn't even know because you've never addressed it, because you don't want to be the bad guy. You don't want to be the enemy. So it's really about not necessarily what you say or how you say it. So if this is your friend or someone you care about, hey friend, you know, I've noticed every time that we're around people, you make jokes about me, and you know, and this is just a hypothetical situation. Or every time we're around people, you know, you start to talk about how I dress, you speak about how I look, you know, you say it in a candidly, like jokingly manner, but it hurts me and I don't like it, because this person is going to continue to do it unless you say, hey, I don't like that. And you said it, and then that person didn't know. So now they'll be like, well, I didn't know, and I apologize. Hopefully it goes like that, right? That's the goal. But sometimes it may not. But at least you were able to get it off your chest, right? And let's see. I mean, I'm just reading the question, so please forgive me. So that's just something that I really wanted to talk about when it becomes, like, as far as a youth goes, you know, just being able to address your feelings, feel how you feel, and tell people, hey, you hurt me. It's okay to be hurt, you know, especially if you love someone. Just being able to have those tough conversations and really express how you feel, because a lot of times we just hold those feelings in because we don't know how to properly assess them, because we've been taught to suppress for so long, but it really does damage to you. Okay, so Nicole said, how does someone to get mental health services who don't think they need it? How do you get someone to get mental health services who don't think they need it? Well, me personally, I would first address what is the issue that you're seeing that they need. So if it's someone who you're saying is, you're noticing that they're depressed, right? They're not doing the things that they used to do. When this is your friend for years, y'all used to go out all the time. You used to talk on the phone. Now, every time that you call her, she just goes to work, comes home, and goes to sleep. So I would address to her the things that she used to do, right? Like, you know, this is not you. We used to do this. We used to do that. Now, all of a sudden, all you want to do is go home and go to sleep. Is something wrong? And a lot of times they may not know how to address it, because in their mind, they don't think anything is wrong. But if you point out to them the things that they used to do and the things that they're doing now, and they can observe it, right? They can make an observation of who they were before and who they are now. And if it's not who they were, and you're able to point out the facts, you know, not just an assumption or your observation, but actually the facts of who they were and who they are now, and tell them, hey, maybe it'll be a good a good decision for you to go talk to someone. I can't help you there because I don't know. I'm not professionally. I can't help you, but I'm here to support you. And I can take you. We can even look for therapists together. I can even go to a therapist with you. Just, you know, because I miss my friend. I miss you. I miss who you were. And I know this is not you. So that would be a good way to start, because that way that lets them know that, hey, this is a safe space. This is someone who cares about my feelings. This is someone who is observant of who I am, and they've recognized something is wrong with me. So they're paying attention. And this is somebody who loves me. And this is someone that I can even trust. Because trust is the main thing, right? Because a lot of times people suffer because they don't have anyone that they can turn to or ask any questions about, or feel that it's safe to talk to them, because all they're going to do is laugh at me. All they're going to do is, talk about me. Okay. How do you identify when you are depressed? So that's a good question, because a lot of people think that depression is just sleeping all day, not getting out the bed, but depression can present in so many different ways. Depression can be, someone who's always irritable, right? Because they can't express how they really feel. So every time you talk to them, they're just irritated. Depression can be, just doing what you feel is right, but deep down inside, you feel like this is not me. So you're living a lie because you want to fit in, but that's not who you truly are. So when you come home, you take off that mask, you wear that avatar around the community or society, but when you come home, you take that mask off. And that's why I said having a spiritual connection, because when I look at spirituality, it's a connection with self, right? So loving yourself, because we're never taught how to love ourselves, especially as women, or even children. Like, women are taught to love their man and love their children, right? That's the traditional way. Men are taught, you got to be a provider. You're not taught about loving yourself. So when you get that, and we're so domesticated as children. We are our parents. So what our parents teach us is who we become, but that's not really who we are. So we're just living this life of false self, right? So beginning to learn how to love yourself. And when you realize, hey, this is not who I am, and not caring about the critics, because that's one of the fears that so many people have, is fear of criticism. But when you love self, you're not going to have to worry about critics, because no matter what you do in life, some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it. So you got to do what makes you feel safe, what makes you feel good, what makes you feel comfortable, So, I mean, it's a lot of ways for depression, but just for me, the biggest identity source is not being who you were before, noticing the change. How do you start to express your feelings? Alex says, just do it. Like Nike, but working on emotional intelligence is very important when it comes to expressing your feelings, because you want to express it the right way, right? Because we have anger, we have sadness, we have frustration, like we have so many different feelings, but being able to express it in a way that is intelligent. Because if somebody makes me mad, I can't go flick my finger off or shoot them, everybody who makes me upset. So you have to really be able to take the time to address those feelings and ask yourself. I like to use, and because I'm working on the journal, but how am I angry? Why am I angry? What caused me to be angry? Why? You like asking yourself what caused those feelings. And then also, most importantly, ask yourself, okay, how did I, react to that feeling? Or what role did I play in getting that feeling? So let's say that you were driving and someone cut you off. And so you start cursing and yelling. And now this person done messed up your whole day. But now you got to sit down and ask yourself, were you upset because the person cut you off? Or were you upset because you got somewhere to go? And now you feel like because of this, they're going to, cause you to be late? Were you upset because you were mad at your child before leaving the house because they didn't make their bed? Were you upset because your husband pissed you off? Like, just being understanding where that feeling comes from and being able to express it in a way, because you being angry and cursing and letting that ruin your day is only going to continue to keep rolling. So you have to be able to get it off in a way that is going to be healthy for you. So, expressing it emotionally and healthy. So if you can't afford health, what are some alternatives? So, of course, there's a lot of community resources. There are nonprofits. Like I said, I have a nonprofit. There are, so you want to go to your community board. So whatever county you're in, they usually have like a community board, and you can go there and ask for help. You can speak to some providers, because they do have sliding scales. So see if a sliding scale is available. So those are some things that you can do. And then sometimes, even if a sliding scale, if you already contacted a therapist and you tell them, hey, I would love to come see you, but right now I'm on a budget and this is what I can afford. How can we work together if you find someone that you really like? Do you think text culture has affected our ability to communicate? Most definitely, Alex. It definitely has. I'm not a person to text, because when someone texts, it's about how that person perceives it, right? So I can send you, okay, but how you read it in the tone that you read it, and that might not even have been how they were trying to convey it. So it's easily misconstrued. So I advise against texting, especially if it's a conversation that is of, substance, right? So if it's just a conversation like, hey, I'm on my way, okay, something like that. But those long texts that we have, it can easily be misconstrued, and the person reading it can take it a whole different way. And that wasn't the feeling that you were trying to express. But now this person is mad at you, and you're like, what they mad for? I didn't even do anything. But definitely it has affected it. Texting is cool when you're busy and it's just something short, but as far as like long paragraphs and things of that nature, I would definitely advise against it. Let's see. I'm sorry, do you think how do you learn to be okay with a step back and paid time off from work to take care of your mental health? How do you learn to be okay to take a step back and take pay? Okay, that's a good question, because finances is very important to most of us, unless you're just sitting on a whole bunch of money. And taking, so looking first at whatever job you're at, see what resources they have, right? So if they have an EAP, do you have FMLA? Can you qualify for, receiving some type of income? Because if you work in a toxic environment, yes, it's going to be difficult because it's going to affect your mental health. And yes, you need the job. So it's like, you got to really ask yourself, can I afford to do this? And look at your job's resources, especially if you have a job that has benefits. They have EAP programs to the person who asked me earlier, what if you can't afford? A lot of jobs have EAPs, which will help, and it's an employee assistance program, which will help give you some therapy for free, and they will pay for it. And so making sure what benefits you have. So before you do take a position, see what benefits you have, because if you have FMLA, if you have sick time off, if you have those things, you can definitely use them. So now you're taking time to take care of your mental health, but you're also not taking that much of a pay cut. Let's see. How do you deal with social media and mental health? Well, I would advise, you choose who you want to follow, right? So if it's someone that is toxic to you, or that's your trigger, then you have to delete them. Or if social media is your trigger, then you just have to step away from it and use other platforms that are healthy for you, depending on where you want to go. A lot of people don't use LinkedIn, right? So if you are adulting in our purpose, LinkedIn would be a great social media, because it doesn't have a lot of, people on there posing who they supposed to be. And, because social media has definitely been tied to depression. It has been tied to anxiety due to people feeling left out, people comparing and contrasting, people judging. All of that affects your mental health. So if you know that social media is a trigger, but you still want to be social, look at other media platforms. I would advise, definitely LinkedIn, if it's for a professional platform. Facebook is a little bit better than Instagram, and it's more substance. To me, Instagram is very surface and fake. Everybody on there is doing well. Nobody is suffering. Everybody's rich. Everybody looks good. So it's not real. And that's just my opinion. So just making sure you are able to recognize what your trigger is. And maybe you just don't need social media. Maybe before we had social media, there were other things to do. Going, to the park, reading a book, watching TV. Find other ways to be social. Let's see. Communication is key. Yes, I agree. Yes, I agree. I hate text. EAP is an employee assistant program, which a lot of different corporations do have. You have to check with HR, and it gives you like 10 free sessions. Most jobs do have it. Okay, somebody answered that. Yes, okay. All right, let's see. So yeah, like going back, like they said, people pile up and then they end up snapping. True, Alex. Because again, when it comes to our feelings, we like to sweep them under the rug because we've been taught to be suppressed for so long. Think about it. When you were a child, stay in a child's place. This ain't got nothing to do with you. So you could never vocalize how you felt. When you were, if you got in trouble and you got a whooping, you never got to express how you felt. Be quiet. You better be quiet if I whoop you some more. So you never could say, but, tell them like, hey, this is what's going on, Mom. This is why I had this, or this is what happened. Like, especially at school, a lot of teachers don't know how to deal with young kids and they feel they're acting out, but did they ever assess to see why? Right? Most kids, especially at a young age, aren't going to act out. Something has triggered that behavior, right? So it might be, who knows, they might be seeing some abuse. They might be in an environment where their parents are using drugs or alcohol. And so when they come home, and that's how depression also presents in itself, because they can't stay at home and just cry, because then they're going, with society, especially if a boy cries, oh, they're a punk, they're a sissy, they this. No, they hurt. Like, they're hurt. And when I look at the word trauma is just pain. Trauma is pain. Anything that has caused you any pain, whether it's emotional pain, sexual pain, physical pain, just pain in general, that is trauma. And I always ask everybody who comes to visit me, have you ever experienced or witnessed anything that was traumatic to you? And I believe wholeheartedly that all of us have experienced some trauma. And so if I had a young man who came to see me and he was like, no. And then when I asked him about his childhood, he told me his mama was on drugs. He saw people die all the time, people getting shot. That's trauma. To see that your mom is on drugs, that hurts, because you're like, that's not what a mom is supposed to do. She's supposed to take care of me. So it was moments where his mom didn't come home, but he's just like, hell, that was his life. That was his narrative. That was his friends. That's his friends spoke about that. His neighbors, everybody's like, the parents got together and they all did drugs together. So to him, that was life. That's what life was supposed to be. And so it was my job to inform him, like, no, that's not what it's supposed to do. And it's up to you to break that curse, because a lot of times we have these generational curses. And, we have to give our parents grace, right? Because they were only doing what they knew, or they were only doing what they were taught. So like I said earlier, we're just domesticated beings. We're domesticated because our parents are only doing what they were taught, and their parents are only doing what they were taught. So the cycle just continues, and it's up to us. I know it's a lot, but to break that generational curse, because now you know. So if you weren't educated or you weren't informed, you may think that, hey, this is life, right? Like, I've never heard so many people who have been, sexually abused at such a young age, but like, I've had so many people come to my office, and this is the first time that they have expressed it, that, when I asked about their childhood and I asked about, trauma, and they'll just start crying. And it was like, I was touched as a child, or my uncle, but it was all of us. It was all my cousins. Everybody did it. Nobody said anything. So I didn't say anything either. They were scared to say something because of that suppression, and like, I tell them, like, okay, now you know better. So have these conversations with your children. So when it does come, let them know that it's okay. You're right. No one wants to have that conversation. No one. You know, they want to talk about everything else, but nobody wants to talk about their cousin or their uncle who molested everyone. It's uncomfortable, but it needs to be had, because if we don't have it, the cycle just continues. And it affects people's mental health. You know, it affects it. Very uncomfortable. It is. But guess what? Being uncomfortable is what creates growth. There's no growth in comfort. So you have to have those conversations. And it may not be the prettiest things, but if you have someone there who is of a mediator and sound, you know, to make sure things don't get out of control, I do feel it can be beneficial. And, you know, accountability though, also, if that person is not going to be held accountable. So if he's not held accountable, accountability yields responsibility. So if he's not held accountable, he's just going to continue to do it. So if you hold someone accountable and are able to have that conversation, because who knows why they did what they did, because it probably happened to them too. And out of all those people that he did touch, it affects everyone differently, right? Some people become promiscuous. Some people don't, choose not to have sex. Some people have social anxiety. Like, everyone's trauma is affected differently. No two people are alike. All of our journeys are different. And the things that happen to you, like your childhood rears your adulthood. So depending on how you were able to heal is going to determine how you're able to survive. A lot of people say, oh, my childhood doesn't bother me. But when you really look down and you speak to a therapist and you really, really look at it and start comparing and contrasting, you will see, like, you know what? Let me take some accountability. My childhood was messed up, and there's nothing that you can do about it, right? So it's not about, blaming anyone or holding guilt, because I'm not here to tell you that, because forgiveness involves forgiving yourself, right? Because a lot of times people blame themselves. They blame themselves for what happened to them. And it's not about who's right or wrong. It's about, okay, now that I have the answer, how can I become better? Like working backwards, working backwards and understanding that it wasn't your fault. Unfortunately, this person didn't know how to express their pain because they were traumatized, whatever caused them to do what they do, or somebody might have touched them and they didn't know how to express themselves. So they felt, hey, hurt people. I'm in pain, so I need this person to be in pain too, because like they say, misery loves company. So just being able to, I feel the most important thing when it comes to our mental health is being able to have uncomfortable conversations. But again, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So if I'm approaching you from a manner of, love and understanding, and, I have to be mature enough now. This can't happen with someone who's not mature enough. So you have to basically do that work too. You have to do that self-healing before you can go talk to somebody. Because if you're not healed, self, it's going to be very difficult, because you're going to still have that grudge and that resentment and things of that nature. And, so it has to be from a maturity level. But just being able to sit down and address the people who hurt you and let them know, because can you really be angry at someone if you never told them how they have hurt you? Definitely. Journaling is a great tool. Like I said, I'm working on a journal myself too for, feelings, right? And I'm calling it, feel, like face it, evaluate it, express it, and let it go. That's feel, so when you face the pain, really face it, and then evaluate, where did this pain come from? Why am I feeling like this? How is it affecting me? Just really evaluate this pain or this, trauma or whatever you have coming on, how it really evaluate it, and then express it. So if you can't express it to that person, like let's say that somebody is no longer here, they have already transpired. and you have some unanswered questions, you're not going to get those questions. So now it's like, express it. So you can write it in a letter. You can write it in your journal. You can write that letter, send it off to somebody going to read it. But guess what? You're able to get it off. Like they say, it's called catharsis, right? And I like to use the analogy when our stomach hurts, like really bad, and it's full, our stomach is full. And so either we're going to throw up or we're going to boo-boo, but it got to come out. And once we throw up or we boo-boo, you feel so much better. That's the same way that, I feel expressing your feelings are. Once you let it go, it feels so much better. And a lot of times we can't, like, people expect closure to be, with that person, but sometimes you can't get closure that way. Sometimes you have to get closure through a therapist, and really understanding and giving yourself grace. Because a lot of times we blame ourselves so much. Like, I wish I would have said this. I wish I would have did that. You didn't, because you didn't know how to express yourself. But when you know better, you do better. So that closure it's too late, or that person's no longer here, or whatever, or you're afraid again because you don't want to look like the bad guy. But you at this age, I want to have relationships that are authentic. You want to have relationships that are genuine. You want to have relationships that are true, So if you're going around pretending like this person didn't hurt you, and you just carrying around that grudge, and every time you see them, your mind like, I can't stand her. Oh, she get on my nerves. Da, 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 da. Is that an authentic relationship? Do you really want that type of energy around you? No. So if this is someone, again, that you value, someone that brings value to your life. And when I ask yourself too, because everything starts with self. Am I a valuable person? And the question that I would say to ask that is, how to ask yourself if you're valuable. What do you provide to people, right? So, because people I look at worthy and valuable different. To me, being valuable holds more substance. And you want to ask yourself, okay, what do I provide to people? Whether it is you provide trust, you provide a lending shoulder, you provide authenticity. What do you provide? And you want to continue to be that person. Yes, you said your body language does show how you feel. That's why I like to, in my office, I do like to see people in person. And that's why I also said about that conversation of not sending a paragraph to people, and actually sitting down, if possible, not even over the phone, because you still can't see, because body language is 85%. So you want to have that heartfelt conversation in person, because after you finish, you might yell at each other, you might curse, but the goal is, I love you in a hug, right? But we were able to get off how you actually feel in a way that was healthy, right? So we're going to be respectful. We're going to speak, let everybody take their, actually listen to understand, not listening to respond. And I feel that is a very difficult for a lot of people actually taking the time to listen, and really understand, because to me, to you might have done something that you don't think anything was wrong with that, right? Like, let's just say you just joking, because you are joking. And you talking about your friend, but in a way, because hey, every time you wear that, girl, where you think you're going? Da, 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 da. And that person may have got offended, but you were just joking. So now when she comes and tells you, I wear these clothes because I like, it makes me feel good, or I wear this because it brings me some type of energy. I don't know. So now you can say they're not wearing this because they're not wearing it for you. They're wearing it for them because it makes them feel a certain type of way. So now you can understand why they may dress this way, because a lot of times we expect us out of other people, and you have to know that you are who you are and they are who they are. So being very mindful of judging, right? So being able to not judge. And this was something that I came up and I realized why people judge. And we judge because of ego. whether from superior or inferior. We think we're better than someone, or we think they're better than us. So we'll judge them. We judge from a place of, so I said ego. We also judge based on lack of experience, right? Because you have never experienced it before. And I'll talk about food, like, oh, that look nasty. Why are you eating that? Why it smell like that? Okay, but you've never tried it. So how can you judge somebody based on their food that you've never tried? So that's the lack of experience. Or we judge because of envy, like, oh, look at her. She thinks she all that. She got, or the most famous ones is, why is she dating that man? He don't do nothing but cheat on her anyway. But you may be envied because you don't even have anyone, right? So you're judging her not because you know anything about her, but you have to. That's why I said it comes when you have to be authentic with yourself, right? So you're looking at somebody's life and you're judging them, but really you're judging them because you envy them, But you have too much pride to admit it, And then you have to ask yourself, okay, are you judging because they have a man and you don't? But why don't you have a man? Ask yourself what's going on with you, and just take that time. Instead of judging them, look at yourself and say, hey, what can I do to get the things that I want? Because you shouldn't be envy. Like if you look at Oprah and people envy her, right? And I just using her because everybody knows her, but I don't envy her. You want to read her story instead of being jealous or talking about her. Read her story, see how she got to where she got to, the things that she had to do. And that could possibly be you if that's the life that you want, instead of judging it, is what I'm saying. So that's just an example. So Dr. Ranky said, what do you provide to people? Me personally, I provide a safe space. And that's for friends, families, individuals, the community. I provide a safe space. I provide a non-judgment zone. I provide a zone where you can be yourself, where you can be authentic. I provide a place where it's love. I provide a place of, educating and informing you, because the goal is peace. Right? Everybody wants to be peaceful. Like that's the ultimate goal, I would say, for everyone, is just to be peaceful. So I just provide a place where it's okay to be who you are, no matter what color you are, what race you are, whether you want to get a vaccine or you don't want to get a vaccine, right? Who am I to tell you that you're right or wrong? And so for me, I provide a safe space where they can be themselves and they don't have to worry about being judged. They don't have to be worried about being ridiculed. They don't have to worry about, their somebody telling their business. Just a place where they can be themselves, relax, and be like, girl, thank you so much. So when you leave my office, I want it to be refreshing. Like, this was so worth it. Thank you. I appreciate you. And just letting them know that, hey, we're all humans. And as a human, we're flawed beings. No one is perfect. There is no manuscript to this life. There's no owner's manual. So we gonna mess up, but it's okay, because the goal is, when we do mess up, learn the lesson. And it's up to you to learn that lesson, because it's your lesson to learn. But when you learn that lesson, you take from that lesson to become better. And for me, like I said, the most important thing is self-love. Loving yourself, because when you love yourself, there's no criticism that can come your way that will take you down. Body language is a dead giveaway. She said, don't hug me, COVID is real. Social media definitely made that worse. People are so argumentative. It's like you're afraid to speak your piece. So guess what? If you already know, because people will attack you, these keyboard warriors. And then you be like, you want to have the last word. And now before you know, because it's not a conversation anymore, it's an argument, because no one's listening. They just want to say their opinion. Because a lot of times what people are arguing on Facebook are all opinions. None of them are facts, So, and it's like everybody's ego is going to get in the way. So if you're having ego, you can't have a conversation with ego. You're going to have to learn how to tame your ego, because we all have it. So now we got to learn how to tame it. And the best way to tame it is being aware of it, because awareness is the greatest tool for change. So once you're aware of your ego and you know, okay, well, or okay, who asked me that question? Alex. Once you're aware of it, you're like, okay, this is their opinion, and they can have their opinion. I have my opinion. I have my belief. I feel the biggest thing that people get misconstrued is the difference between opinion and truth, or belief and facts. Your opinion is not the truth. Your belief is not a fact. But so many people hold so steadily on their opinion or their belief. And that's how the ego gets involved, because everybody doesn't think like you. Everybody doesn't behave like you. And like I was telling someone, you know, when you think of things, like for me, I don't believe there's only one way to get to heaven. I don't. I do believe in creating heaven on earth, but you can't, as a Christian, you can't tell me the only way to get to heaven is through Christ. That's a belief. You know, or you can't tell a Muslim that the only way is through Allah. That's their belief. But at the end of the day, who am I to come and tell somebody that they're wrong? Who am I to tell you, no, the only way is through Jesus, or the only way is through Allah? No. Just like when we travel, there's not only one way to get to where we need to be. We got cars, we got buses, we got planes, we got ships. So it's being open-minded and understanding it's multiple ways to do the things that you need to do. You know, so let's see, Alex, how do you find a safe space when you don't have one? That's where your therapist will come in, right? So, and I like to tell people too, you might, because I've had people who've had numerous of therapies and they're like, therapy doesn't work. Energy is real, Alex. When you go and sit in that person's office for your initial and it doesn't feel right, on to the next one. And when you feel that connection, or that like, oh, that energy is so good, that's your therapist. But before you even say that's your therapist, you want to make sure that you have the right therapist, right? So if you have experienced some type of sexual abuse, you don't want to go to a therapist who specializes in marriage counseling, right? So you want to make sure that you are able to find the right therapist for you. And it's a lot of people who don't have safe spaces in friends, families, or coworkers. So that's where therapy comes in, because that's definitely going to be your safe space. But make sure that the energy is there. Make sure that the connection is there. Make sure that the expertise is there. And if you have questions, if they can't answer it, that ain't the therapist for you either. You know, because even if they don't know the answer, if they can't say to you, they just say, I don't know, that's not the one. You know, they should be able to say, hey, I don't have that answer, but I'm going to make sure that I look for it and I'll get back to you. That's the one, loves what they do, and they are concerned with your well-being and they want the best for you. What are some tools or things we can do to keep our own mental health in the right space? I would say, again, finding out who we are. That's the most important thing. Finding out who we truly are. And when we find ourselves or find our purpose and it might take a whole lot of trials and tribulations, and we're going to get frustrated. We're going to have some anxiety. It might even lead us to some depression. So mental health is a journey. Just like life is a journey, your mental health is a journey. And a lot of times when you look at, Erickson's, most people don't reach that very top tier, but it's okay, because guess what? It didn't stop you. So you just continue to working on mental health is a daily journal, just getting up, and also remember, because it is a such thing as toxic positivity, where you can be so positive that you don't take the time to actually grieve, right? Because anger is a real feeling. So don't be dismissive of your feelings, like positive vibes only, positive. No, it's okay. Every day is not going to be a good day. But what you're going to do when you are angry or you're sad or you're upset or whatever the case may be, whatever feeling has arrived, just take the time to really feel that feeling, feel it, and, address it again. Like I said, express it, do those things that you have to do. And that's what keeps us in a balance, right? Because mental health I like to use a seesaw. So when our stressors come, it can go up, down, but being able to actually, take those stresses off and analyze those stressors and ask, what can we do? Because remember, we're human and we're not robots, and giving ourselves grace. And, I can only do this, I can only do that. Just and being realistic. Because I know in this world we have some instant gratification, but unfortunately, life doesn't work like that. Let's see. How do you find a safe space when you? Okay, I just answered that one. Awesome. Sometimes you have to be an example of what a safe space looks like. Vulnerability opens doors. Yes, being vulnerable, but a lot of times, Candace, people don't have that person that they trust. It's sad, but it's true. Because they might go tell all your business, someone who you thought. So being able to vet people properly. And I do believe in new friends. I know a lot of people say they don't, but I do, especially as we get older. We're going to lose a lot of people when we start to change our lives. So being around people who, think like you, and people who are vulnerable to you, that's how you vet and see how they think. Because if I'm telling you that I don't smoke weed, and I feel like, and again, this is just an example, I feel like nothing's wrong with smoking weed. I smoke weed all day, every day, and I'm talking to someone who loves it. That's not going to be a good place, because you guys aren't on the same wave path, right? So just being able to make sure you vet people properly, because everyone is not going to be open-minded. It's a lot of closed-minded individuals here. So you want to find somebody who's open-minded. You want to find someone who's caring, someone who definitely non-judgmental. And that's very difficult, because the ego is a mug, so just mindful of vetting people properly. Let's see. So you can find me on all social media platforms at MindSet Healthcare, or at Mentally Fit for Life on social media and Facebook. And then I got the email address and stuff like that. So both of them too can be info at MindSet Healthcare. Oh, well, it's Otubaga for both of them at both.
Awesome. Well, guys, show some love, put some hearts, put some fire. This conversation, it was amazing, and it's something that we need to continue to have, especially within our culture, because these are things that we just don't talk about. So having these types of platforms, just to have these candid conversations, be able to ask questions that we've always wanted to ask but never really had anybody to ask, that's going to be real, and keep it just 100. So I really just thank you for your candidness, your authenticity, and your expertise to help us in this area. Because like we said, mental health is real, and we know that we need to be able to check in with ourselves in all aspects, not as we are adulting, as we are finding our purpose and all of that, and keeping our mental space in check. So thank you so much. We truly appreciate it. You see the chat, the hearts, the love. It's amazing. So guys, we are going to move into our next session. And we're going to talk about, we've moved into imaging.
What a dynamic session that we had at Adulting in My Purpose. It was amazing to have Omolola Otubags of MindSet Healthcare to come and just share with us and talk to us and just really keep it real. And this is what I love about the Adulting in My Purpose platform. We bring to you amazing speakers, dynamic professionals, subject matter experts who have a desire and a heart and a passion to provide you with the help, with the strategies that you need to adult healthy. This adulting, we know it's hard. We know it's a rough transition, but with the tools and with the strategies in place, it can be a smooth one, and you can truly be adulting in your purpose. So that session was amazing. You need to come back next week, because I'm going to give you another taste of what we experienced at this year's Adulting in My Purpose Summit, to help you prepare for what is to come for our Adulting in My Purpose Summit 2022. So Make sure you write down your calendar. We'll be back next week for another session of Adulting in My Purpose.